Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I announce the arrival of the ministers. Thank you. Your Excellencies, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, may we rise up for the national anthem of the Republic of South Africa. And that will be followed by the anthem of the African Union. Thank you so much. May we take our seats. Your Excellency John Steenhuisen, the Minister of Agriculture of the Republic of South Africa. Your Excellency Moses Vilakati, Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment of the African Union Commission. Your Excellency Nados Bekele, the Chief Executive Officer of the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD. Honorable Fred Mbino, the Minister of State for Agriculture of the Republic of Uganda, who chairs the African Union Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment. Representatives of the regional economic communities present here and those online. Your Excellency Odd Eric, the chair of the DPCG that is working on CAADP. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocols remains observed. Your Excellencies, the African Union welcomes you to this beautiful city of Johannesburg for the launch of the CAADP Strategy Action Plan and its associated Kampala Declaration. The Comprehensive African Agriculture Development Program, commonly known as CAADP, has been a crucial driving force in the agricultural transformation of the African continent since its inception in 2003. This program aimed to increase food security and nutrition, reducing poverty, creating employment, as well as contributing to economic development of the African continent. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we gather here to launch the CAADP strategy and action plan that was adopted by the African Union heads of states during its extraordinary summit that was held in Kampala, Uganda, from the 9th to 11th of January 2025. The objective of this launch is for us to officially release the strategy to all stakeholders, including our member states and development partners that are working on the CAADP agenda. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the launch of the strategy and action plan 2026-2025 will mark a significant milestone in Africa's journey towards agricultural transformation and sustainable development. This event will also set the stage for domestication by countries, which in turn will result into a decade of progress in terms of innovation, collaboration towards building a resilient and sustainable agri-food system on the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, allow me read the order of proceeding in this meeting. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on day one of our launch, we will start with opening remarks from His Excellency John Steenhuisen, the Minister of Agriculture of the Republic of South Africa. That will be followed by His Excellency Moses Vilakati, the Commissioner of Agricultural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment of the African Union Commission. Again, that will be followed by Her Excellency Nados Bekele, the CEO of NEPAD, and the opening session will close by an opening remarks from the chair of the STC. Without further ado, I hereby call upon the Minister of Agriculture from the Republic of South Africa to come and deliver his opening remarks. Your Excellency, you're welcome.
His Excellency, the Honourable Moses Vilakati, AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, the Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment for the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mr. Kayakuluka Fred Bueno, Minister of State for Agriculture, representing the Honourable Frank Tumbawabaze, Minister for Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries of Uganda, and the Chair of the Specialised Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development and Water and Environment, my good friend Minister Chawuka, who we had a good meeting with this morning, Your Excellency, Her Excellency Nados Bekele, CEO of NEPAD, representatives from the STC Bureau countries, delegates representing the regional economic communities, the member states of the African Union and ambassadors, the chair of our Development Partners Coordination Group, Mr. Odd Arneson, representatives of the Pan-African Parliament and African Food Systems Parliamentary Network, representatives of non-state actors, women and youth, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me huge pleasure to welcome you today to Johannesburg. It is absolutely wonderful to see so many of our familiar faces that were together in Kampala. And on behalf of the government of South Africa, I'm honored to extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you to South Africa. Wamkhalekile. I'm certain that you're going to have a pleasant stay, and we're going to have fruitful deliberations today. I'm certain that we are going to leave here more determined than ever before after the launch of the Kampala Declaration and the CAADP Strategy and Action Plan for the years 2026 to 2035. As many of you know, I was part of the meetings in Kampala when these important documents were developed. And I'm looking greatly forward to working with each and every one of you and those partners who are joining us online today to implement and action their implementation for the betterment of agriculture on the continent. It has been incredibly encouraging to see agriculture move up the agenda on many of the new multilateral discussions that are taking place as food security begins to top the agenda of many countries. Recognition that food security and agriculture's role in it is linked to national security. Let me extend my sincere congratulations to His Excellency, Mr. Vilakazi, Commissioner, on his appointment as the new Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, the Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment. South Africa, Commissioner, commits itself to work with you and support your programs that you will undertake to take agriculture on our continent to another level. We express our gratitude for your decision to host this significant event in South Africa, and our objective is to ensure that your stay is comfortable, allowing you all to leave with treasured memories of South Africa upon the program's conclusion. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, South Africa welcomes and supports the launch of CAADP, the Strategy and Action Plan, and the Kampala Declaration. And we commend the AU Commission for its efforts to ensure that we, as countries, advance the implementation process of Agenda 2063. The launch of this CAADP coincides with sluggish economic growth and geopolitical changes, which necessitate our consideration of how to domesticate and institutionalize the process. We have seen the geopolitical scene being rocked quite substantially with new tariff regimes and countries that are turning increasingly inwards rather than outwards and away from multilateral forums with their joint problem-solving initiatives. So, of course, engaging in global trade is a vital component of national food security. However, excessive reliance on global markets can also render nations vulnerable to disruptions in the international trade and supply chains. And that is why it is so important that as countries in Africa, we look at how we can trade more efficiently and effectively with each other, how we can more efficiently and effectively move agricultural goods and services and inputs around our own continent to ensure that we too are taking care of Africa and using other excess opportunities for trade. It's also vital to acknowledge that the significance of the CAADP strategy lies in the valuable insights into resolving the current challenges on the continent. The prospects for expediting poverty alleviation in the coming years remains uncertain as Africa faces the repercussions of socio-economic shocks, persistently high food inflation rates due to disease outbreaks, the significant impacts of climate variability and climate change, and a variety of other contributing factors. This is going to have ongoing adverse effects on national nutrition security and the consumption levels of African households. These things are with us, and we must learn to navigate them in the coming years if we're to be able to steer the ship of our economies and our agricultural economies into calmer waters. One highlight of this launch is that attracting investment in our sector is essential for combating poverty and hunger, while at the same time enhancing agricultural productivity. Strengthening resource mobilization is a key strategy to address the challenges facing our smallholder sectors. Additionally, prioritizing the efficient allocation of available resources to boost sector productivity is critically important. And in this context, evidence-based inter-sector prioritization is vital for improving agricultural resource management. The strategy has highlighted that Africa's progress over the last 20 years presents a picture of significant progress, though there is evidence of sluggishness, which should concern all of us. South Africa is reiterating its strong political leadership and commitment to drive the implementation, the mutual accountability, and significantly the financing required to achieve all of the aspirations of CAADP. Chairperson, as political leaders, we must uphold our commitments to enhance agricultural growth and productivity while increasing the level and efficiency of farm investments for broader impact. With the assistance of the African Union, AUDA, NEPAD, and other partners and experts, we must address the challenges related to data management, as these will continue to impact the implementation of the CAADP Agri-Food Systems agenda. This also underscores the importance of emphasizing mutual accountability during the Kampala period concerning investments to bridge data gaps. The agri-food system requires innovative technologies to adapt suitably to local social conditions and be updated in response to environmental factors, such as the co-evolution of pests and diseases, degradation of water and land sources, and, as I've mentioned already, climate change. Eliminating distortions and resolving market failures hindering technology adoption are essential components of any productivity enhancement programs, particularly for smallholder farmers. In this context, agricultural policy faces a significant challenge. The simultaneous need to address market failures is often constrained by government resource limitations and the difficulty of properly identifying issues and then implementing effective reforms to respond to those. It is crucial then that all of us actively confront these challenges as we embrace the Kampala agenda and the CAADP strategy. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, governments are crucial players in the innovation system, acting as investors in knowledge creation and as advocates for the dissemination and use of technology. This role involves increasing public investments and policy reforms that incentivize public institutions and private companies to create knowledge that meets users' needs throughout the agri-food value chain. Our agri-food systems entail strengthening coordination amongst all stakeholders, crafting supportive policy frameworks, and prioritizing capacity building alongside robust data and evidence management. It has been said during the Kampala summit that delivering on the Kampala Declaration in the next decade will require a comprehensive re-evaluation of agricultural and nutrition policies that embrace the growing complexities of urbanization, population growth, the challenges posed by youth, and the shifting points of influence in planning. Addressing hunger and poverty necessitates a multi-sectoral approach, particularly in an economy experiencing slow economic growth such as our own. Achieving transformation in agri-food sectors will also necessitate extensive data from various sectors to make informed decisions regarding food security and nutrition. This requires addressing data deficiencies, particularly concerning diets, micronutrient levels, and food composition, through systematically gathering information and recognizing potential within the food system. It also means we have to be good stewards of the agricultural land that is so important for the production of food on our continent. A move away from harmful practices that cause long-term damage to soil, thereby ultimately affecting its long-term productivity, need to be addressed. We need to be examining new technologies and new ways to ensure that we're able to make sure our yields hold firm, but that at the same time, we're being good stewards of the natural environment and our soils. Our soils, like our minerals, must be regarded as one of our greatest assets in Africa, and we should seek to ensure that they are able to produce long into the future. Esteemed Chairperson, honourable members, I also wish to emphasise that as we implement the CAADP over the forthcoming decade, we must assess our progress across various sectors. And this endeavour is going to be essential in ensuring that our future aspirations are firmly anchored in the prevailing realities, thereby maximising the likelihood of success. There will have to be far more regular check-ins, and I think that we should be able to speak openly, frankly, and honestly with each other about shortcomings, about targets that are not looking like they're going to be met, and be able to have implementation mechanisms and interventions to ensure that all of us are on track to ensure that the CAADP is successfully implemented. I believe this will also, at the same time, enhance the creation of practical, inclusive and technically sound platforms and solutions for assessing the performance of the agricultural sector, to attract more investment to the industry, specifically for women and youth. I will conclude by committing that South Africa remains dedicated to pursuing all 6 of the Kampala commitments until we achieve the necessary shared economic growth in our continent. And I can think of no better month or time that calls us to action as a continent than an Africa Month as we head towards Africa Day. I thank you and look forward to the engagements. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellencies. Can we put our hands together for the ministers once again? Thank you so much, Honourable Minister, for your commitment of South Africa in implementing the CAADP, including its 6 strategic objectives. And the African Union is proud of its member states in implementing the CAADP strategy and action plan, including the declaration for the Kampala Declaration. I therefore wish to call upon His Excellency Moses Vilakati, Commissioner for Agricultural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment of the African Union, to deliver his welcome remark. Your Excellency, you're welcome to take the podium.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a bit too tall for this one. Thank you. Before I start, I was saying to Honourable Minister John Steenhuisen of South Africa that maybe I should not be continuing because he has summarized everything. But I think protocol dictates that I say something. Your Excellency, Honourable John Steenhuisen, Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development of the Republic of South Africa, Your Excellency, Honourable Karaglaka Fred Bueno, Minister of State for Agriculture, representing the Honourable Frank Tumwebaze, Minister for Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Fisheries of Uganda, and the Chair of the Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment. Minister of Agriculture of the Kingdom of Eswatini, Honourable Mandla Chauka, Your Excellencies, Your Excellency Menadus Bekele, CEO of the NEPAD, Excellencies of the STC Bureau and their representatives, representatives of the regional economic communities and regional mechanisms of the African Union, representatives from the African Union member states, representatives of the development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the official launch of the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, commonly known as CAADP, Strategy and Action Plan 2026 to 2035, and the CAADP Kampala Declaration. Today, Africa stands tall during the launch of this transformative strategy that was adopted during the extraordinary session of the African Union Heads of State Assembly in Kampala, Uganda in January 2025. The launch of this strategy is one of my key agenda items in my 100 days plan of action for the Commission since my assumption of office as Commissioner for Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment. I've decided that I should have a 100 days plan so that it's easier to measure how we're performing as the department. A seed of hope has been planted in the fertile soil of Africa's agricultural landscape. Today we gather to nurture this seed into a bountiful harvest, symbolizing the transformation of our agriculture sector and the prosperity of our African people. Our journey so far in agriculture has made us traverse the path from Maputo Declaration to the Malabo Declaration, and now we embark on a new journey with the Kampala Declaration and CAADP Strategy and Action Plan 2025-2036. Despite various challenges faced, including budgetary constraints, weak advocacy and awareness creation, weak infrastructure, African Union member states remain resilient to the commitment of CAADP. And thank you, Honorable Minister, for sharing that commitment on behalf of the other ministers and member states. I think we need to give the Minister a round of applause for that. It is exciting that many countries have made commendable progress. Unfortunately, the targets set by the Malabo commitments have not been fully achieved. And that is why we need to take a look at why and how we move forward in this strategy. I therefore take this opportunity to congratulate the African member states for the fortitude shown to make Africa self-reliant in terms of food self-sufficiency. Unfortunately, we are still spending between US 50 billion to 100 billion on importing of food. And the question is why? We have the land, we have the water, we have technical expertise. What more do we need to do? And I think we need to do that introspection. Your Excellencies, distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen, the new CAADP Strategy and Action Plan 2025-2036 marks a significant shift towards agri-food systems transformation. We recognize that agriculture is not just about production, but about creating a holistic system that encompasses production, processing, distribution, up to consumption. It also envisions sustainable and resilient agri-food systems for a healthy and prosperous Africa. Through this strategic document we're about to launch, the continent has been offered a springboard to create greater coherence in the bid to drive nature-positive agricultural production systems that will support ecosystem restoration and biodiversity gain. Currently, Africa is home to 9 of the 10 countries most vulnerable to climate change, and African member states are already diverting up to 9% of their national budgets to respond to climate extremes. This strategy, if fully implemented by our member states, pertinent and persistent issues such as food and nutritional insecurity, biodiversity loss, gender inequality, rising unemployment, migration, emerging diseases including pandemics, inflation, and weak economies including adaptation and mitigation would be effectively addressed. Allow me at this juncture to commend the conscious effort to ensure that the CAADP Strategy and Action Plan is more inclusive, featuring integration of various sectors including livestock and crop systems, smart agriculture, including emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, digitalization, investment, and financing. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, allow me to make a clarion call to our member states to support the domestication of the CAADP strategy and action plan through committing increased budgetary allocation. I would also like to take this opportunity to commend the development partners community in particular and support that is being demonstrated by the Development Partners Coordination Group and the private sector partners who have continuously offered their support to African agricultural development agenda. We further call on you all to support the domestication and implementation of the CAADP Kampala Declaration. It's one thing to make a declaration. It's another to domesticate it into our national programs. And that's what we're about here today. I convey my compliments to the government of the Republic of South Africa for hosting this auspicious occasion and reiterate the commitment of the African Union in realizing the vision of the Africa we want. As we launch this new chapter in our collective efforts to transform Africa's agricultural sector, I urge all stakeholders to work together to achieve our goals. Let us harness the power of agri-food systems transformation to feed our people, to create jobs and drive the economic growth of Africa. Together, we can make Africa's agriculture sector a beacon of hope and prosperity for generations and generations to come. When the winds of change blow, some people build walls, while others build windmills. Let me repeat. When the winds of change blow, some people build walls, while others build windmills. Where will you be? I am proposing, let us build windmills, harness the power of agri-food systems transformation to drive our development and prosperity. I thank you all. May God bless us all.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Commissioner, for your commitment and the clerical call for all the member states to domesticate the CAADP strategy and action plan, as well as the call for all of us to increase our budgetary allocation to the implementation of the CAADP strategy. And thank you so much also for including the domestication process in your 100 days of office. I now wish to call Her Excellency Nados Bekele, the Chief Executive Officer of the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, to give her welcome remarks. Your Excellency CEO, you're welcome. The CEO will deliver her statement online. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremony. Your Excellency, Honorable John Steenhuisen, Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries of the Republic of South Africa. Your Excellency, Dr. Moses Vilakazi, Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment of the African Union Commission. Your Excellency, Honorable Frank Tumwebeze, Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries of the Republic of Uganda and Chair of the Bureau of the 5th STC, or his representative, Honorable Ministers, distinguished permanent secretaries, representatives of the regional economic communities and development partners, colleagues and friends, and I would also like to recognize strategic partners, knowledge partners, the farmers, food and agriculture industry captains, and aspiring young entrepreneurs. Good morning and welcome to this defining moment in our continental journey. It is with immense pride and deep gratitude that I address you today at the official launch of the CAADP Strategy and Action Plan and the Kampala CAADP Declaration. Just weeks ago in Lusaka, the African Union Development Agency convened the permanent secretaries of the continent, the entire continent, and together we reaffirmed that agriculture is more than a sector. It is the lifeblood of our economies, the bedrock of our food security, and the engine of our shared prosperity. As I reminded permanent secretaries in Zambia, Africa possesses 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land, a young and dynamic population, and an unparalleled richness of biodiversity. And this has been already echoed by the two ministers and the commissioner that spoke before me. Yet, ladies and gentlemen, our true power lies not in potential, but in aligned action, from seed to table, from farm gate to global markets. Over the past 20 years, the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, has been able to mobilize political will, shape natural agricultural investment plans, and guided millions of dollars into transformative programs. We have witnessed youth-led agri-tech innovation flourish and regional value chains take root under our collective stewardship. And through the Kampala Declaration, our heads of states have set a clear course to build resilient, inclusive, and climate-smart agri-food systems guided by 6 strategic objectives that span production, processing, markets, governance, nutrition, and financing. Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, today's launch is neither an endpoint nor a ceremony. It is the ignition of a decade of acceleration. We will accelerate the full implementation of the AfCFTA to boost intra-African trade, sustain the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, called PIDA, and its catalytic investments, and fast-track the post-Malabo CAADP biennial reviews that sharpen our policy compass. More importantly, strengthen systemic capacity for robust multi-sectoral planning for policy coherence, budgeting, and coordination. We will scale up our support to special economic zones where $46 million in direct investments is already revitalizing agro-industrial clusters, and expand the African Union Development Agency's Center of Excellence on Climate Change Resilience and Adaptation to safeguard our landscapes and livelihoods. We will unleash the power of our youth and women, builders, not beneficiaries, through the 100 million MSME initiative and the Skills Initiative for Africa, ensuring they gain land, finance, and market linkages to drive rural entrepreneurship. And we will mobilize bold blended financing, aligning public budgets, catalyzing private investments, and deploying innovative instruments to reach our target of $100 billion for agri-food transformation over the next decade. Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, we will be convening, the Ministers of Finance and Planning to discuss on the impact of these new shifts, the geopolitical shifts, on the socioeconomic transformation process of Africa. Through these consultations, we will get some concrete intervention areas for the African Union Development Agency and its sister agency, the AFCFTA. Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, as we launch this strategy and action plan, let's remember that its success hinges on true ownership, domestication in national, regional, and continental plans, robust financing partnerships mobilized through Team Africa, and meaningful engagement of our youth, our women, our smallholders, private sector, and civil society. Together, we will harness emerging technologies, digital agriculture, precision farming, climate smart practices, and strengthen our infrastructure and value chains under AFCFTA to transform Africa from a net importer of food into a powerhouse of agri-food exports. May this strategy inspire us to accelerate implementation, deepen collaboration, and deliver the Africa we want by 2063. I look forward to our shared journey ahead and the transformative impact we will achieve together against the tide that is, there against us, So thank you for your attention and looking forward to hearing from you, what is possible to be done within this context of acceleration. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, shall we also put our hands together for the CEO of NEPAD? Thank you so much, Madam CEO, for your statement. May I now call upon Honorable Fred Bino, the State Minister of Agriculture of the Republic of Uganda, who represents the chair of the STC Bureau of the African Union Commission. Honorable Minister, come and take the floor and officially open the launch.
Our host, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture of the Republic of South Africa, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture of the Kingdom of Eswatini, His Excellency Dr. Moses Vilakati, Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment at the African Union Commission, His Excellency Nados Pekele, the Chief Executive Officer of the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, representatives of member states and regional economic communities, members of the private sector, especially those in the agriculture sector and other related sectors, development partners, distinguished participants. First of all, allow me to convey apologies from my senior colleague, the Honorable Frank Tumwebaze, who planned and was supposed to be here with us, but couldn't be able because of other competing programs. Secondly, allow me to add my voice to those who have spoken before me to welcome you all to this important event where we are going to launch the CAADP Strategy and Action Plan 2026 to 2035 and the CAADP Kampala Declaration, any important milestone in our deliberate effort to transform Africa's agriculture sector. In the same spirit, I wish to commend our host, the government of the Republic of South Africa, for the excellent hospitality extended to us so far. Still in the same spirit, I heartily congratulate His Excellency Dr. Moses Vilakati upon his election as the Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment at the African Union Commission. On behalf of the Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment, I assure Dr. Moses Vilakati the support as he embarks on the journey of leading the transformation of Africa's agriculture sector through, among others, the CAADP Kampala agenda. Colleagues, distinguished participants, as we are all aware, this is the third in a series of CAADP strategies, the first having been espoused in Maputo Declaration of 2003, the second in the Malabo Declaration of 2014, and now the CAADP Kampala Declaration of 2025. I'll focus on setting the pace for successful implementation of the CAADP Strategy and Action Plan 2026 to 2035 and the CAADP Kampala Declaration. And I wish to begin by congratulating all of you upon successfully completing the extraordinary summit that adopted both the strategy and the action plan, as well as the CAADP Kampala Declaration that we, Uganda, hosted in January 2025. I also wish to register my appreciation to the African Union for successfully undertaking the final processes of the documents, including translation into all the African Union languages, culminating in this launch that we are attending today. As you may recall, the process of developing the strategy and action plan and the declaration was widely consultative, driven by the African Union Commission under the auspices of the Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water, and Environment. African Union member states, governments, parliamentarians, the private sector, farmers and farmer groups, academia, civil society, and development partners, among others, all participated in the process of developing the CAADP Strategy and Action Plan 2026 to 2035. With the planning process now completed, we should turn all our energies and abilities towards ensuring successful implementation. The responsibility for leading the implementation process lies squarely with governments and all those stakeholders that participated in the development of the key documents are looking to us for delivery of the anticipated results. We cannot afford to disappoint them. In the view of this, this meeting is premised on the tagline, setting the pace for successful implementation. And this is deliberate. And this is with a view to stimulating debate on how best we can ensure successful implementation of CAADP 3. As you recall, the fourth CAADP biennial review undertaken in 2023 noted that no country was on track to achieve the Malabo targets by 2025. The continent as a whole was not on track with regard to implementing the 7 commitments of the Malabo Declaration on accelerated agricultural growth and transformation for shared prosperity and improved livelihood. The question is, why are we not able to implement our own commitments to ourselves? As African countries, we should have deeper reflection on this. And I'm hopeful that during this launch, we can identify what we need to do differently in order to ensure successful implementation of CAADP 3. As we step in that direction, let me remind you of this major fact. A population that cannot feed itself cannot guarantee its own future. One of the participants has shared very interesting statistics with me this morning. And I would like to share the same with you related to this statement that I've just made. 30% of Africa's children are stunted. And this has reduced the GDP of Africa by 10%. In the same way, 50% of childhood deaths are related to nutrition deficiencies. 3, other forms of malnutrition reduce GDP of countries by as much as 17%. And to me, this is serious. So, a population that cannot feed itself cannot guarantee its own future. Therefore, for Africa to guarantee its own future, we must take deliberate steps to feed ourselves. And we must go beyond feeding ourselves. In our country, we have a saying in one of the local languages in Uganda. And our leader, President Museveni, has repeated this several times. And the saying goes, okukolera ekida kyonka, meaning working for stomach alone. So we must go beyond feeding ourselves to enabling our people earn incomes and create jobs from the agriculture sector. And this is to say commercialization of agriculture and agro-industrialization. The theme of our CAADP strategy and action plan 2026 to 2035, building resilient and sustainable agri-food system in Africa says it all. You will note that agri-food systems encompass interventions in the primary production of food and non-food agricultural products, as well as in food storage, aggregation, post-harvest handling, transportation, processing, distribution, marketing, disposal, and consumption. The second major factor that I want to draw your attention to is that implementation of CAADP is primarily at national, that is to say, member state level, hence the importance of member states' ownership and leadership. Therefore, we as member states must urgently mainstream CAADP into our national development plans and subsequently regional development plans and continental development strategies and plans. At this point, allow me to report that Uganda was lucky that its 5-year development plan expires or ends this year. This has enabled Uganda to include CAADP 3 into our next National Development Plan, which will run from the financial year 2025-2026 to the financial year 2029-2030. Mainstreaming CAADP into our development plans provides the framework for resource mobilization, and here I mean both financial and human resources, both mobilization internally and mobilization externally. And this puts, it puts in place the necessary conditions for successful execution. Similarly, regional collaboration is important. There are key CAADP aspects such as market opening, infrastructure development, pest and disease control, and others that are better managed through inter-country collaboration. Hence, the need for regional economic communities to play a lead role here. Continental institutions must play the broader coordination and monitoring role, involving more critical stakeholders at all stages. I was surprised to learn that the dialogue of permanent secretaries that took place from the 10th to the 12th of April this year was only the 4th such dialogue since the inception of CAADP in 2003. This leads me to ask, who then has been leading implementation of CAADP at member state levels? At member state level. On a positive note, I was happy to learn that that dialogue of permanent secretaries has now been institutionalized and will be held annually. I wish to re-emphasize that the decision should be endorsed at ministerial level and implemented by the responsible African Union institutions. The other major aspect that I wish to bring to your attention is the fact that CAADP targets and our commitments go beyond the agriculture sector. Sectors such as infrastructure, trade, health, environment, or climate, among others, have prominent roles to play in delivering on some of the targets. Therefore, intersectoral collaboration in country, at regional level and continental level is essential. For example, whereas we are talking about fostering intra-African agricultural trade, the agriculture sector is the most heavily protected sector under the African continental free trade area. The logistics to facilitate this trade are not in the state we would wish them to be. And a number of several other discordant policies and actions. We must therefore foster intersectoral collaboration at all levels. The African Union Commission needs to create a platform of all sectors concerned with successful CAADP implementation for harmonization, while we as member states do the same at our level. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, you will also note that each of the African Union member states has some peculiarities which must be taken into account in assessing implementation and providing guidance thereto. Lastly, policy drives everything else. Therefore, for Africa to fully implement CAADP and have it positively contribute to the attainment of the Agenda 2063, we must focus on having the right policies in place and ensuring that they are well executed. Such policies must be coherent. Colleagues and distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, as I indicated earlier, a population that cannot feed itself cannot guarantee its future existence. Hence, the need for Africa to prioritize implementation of the CAADP Kampala agenda. I call for concerted efforts in implementation of the CAADP Kampala agenda so that we can achieve together as a continent. I therefore take the opportunity to open the meeting. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for opening the launch of the event. As you have heard from the Honorable Minister, implementation is done at the member state level with coordination from the regional economic communities. I therefore wish to call upon the regional economic communities to come and make their statements. I therefore request that you keep it as short as possible, within 3 minutes. May I call upon the host nation, the host rec, that is SADC, to come and give her statement. SADC, you're welcome.
Your Excellency, Honorable John Steenhuisen, the Minister of Agriculture of the Republic of South Africa, Your Excellency Moses Vilakati, the Commissioner of Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment, Your Excellency Mrs. Nados Bekele, the CEO of NEPAD, Your Excellency Honorable Fred Kiakulaga, Minister of State of Agriculture of Uganda, dear African Union member states and regional economic communities, and dear partners, all protocol observed, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to echo Honorable Minister Steenhuisen, welcoming you all to the SADC region. I'm also honored to congratulate His Excellency Moses Vilakati for his appointment as the Commissioner of Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment at the African Union. It's really a pleasure and privilege for the SADC region to host the official launch of the CAADP Strategy and Action Plan and the Kampala Declaration, following its approval by the African Union Head of States and Government in January 2025. This ceremony is taking place in a special moment where the continent and the region, through the Republic of South Africa, is chairing the G20, where agriculture is one of the critical areas being addressed by this chairmanship. Agriculture is a cornerstone of our economies, contributing between 4 to 27% of national GDP and about 13% of the total exports earnings. It is in this regard that the region has approved in 2014 the regional agriculture policy to transform the agriculture sector. Following the approval of the CAADP Strategy and Action Plan 2026-2035, the region, the SADC region, has revised its Regional Agriculture Investment Plan 2017-2022 to align it with the CAADP strategy, with support of various partners, including AGRA, NEPAD, and the new Regional Agriculture Investment Plan 2025-2030 is expected to be approved by the ministers responsible for agriculture in this month of May. Following the process, we have planned to immediately engage with the SADC member states to update their national agriculture investment plans to align them with the updated RIPE and the CAADP strategy and action plan 2026-2035. This meeting is for the continent and the region to reiterate their political commitment and to fast-track the review of national and regional instruments so that by 2026, we are ready to fully operationalize the new CAADP. We are hopeful that this time we will be able to turn our dreams into reality, to ensure an agri-food systems, by transforming our agri-food systems with significant impacts on improved food and nutrition security, combating poverty, and develop our economies. We are looking forward for a successful launch of the CAADP Strategy 2026-2035, but mainly we are looking to its effective implementation for the next 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the host, Rick. I therefore wish to invite ICAS to come and give us its commitment to the successful implementation of the strategy as well as the declaration. ICAS, you're welcome. If ICAS is not around, may I now invite Uma. You're welcome, madam. May us kindly stick to the 3 minutes. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Excellences, estimés partenaires, chers sœurs et frères, représentants les CER, mesdames et messieurs, au nom de Son Excellence Monsieur Tariq Ben Salem, secrétaire général de l'Union Maghreb Arabe, je tiens à adresser nos sincères félicitations à la Commission de l'Union africaine, à l'agence de NEPAD, aux États membres et à tous les partenaires de développement à l'occasion de ce lancement. Il s'agit d'une étape importante dans le parcours collectif de l'Afrique pour la sécurité alimentaire, la transformation de l'agriculture et le développement durable. Je saisis cette occasion pour féliciter Son Excellence Monsieur Moses Vilakati, commissaire de l'agriculture, développement rural, de l'économie bleue et de l'environnement durable, et lui souhaiter plein succès dans l'exercice de sa nouvelle fonction. Comme je tiens également à remercier les autorités sud-africaines pour toutes les facilités mises en place en vue de la réussite de cette rencontre. Excellences, mesdames et messieurs, comme vous le savez, la nouvelle stratégie et déclaration de Kampala réaffirme l'engagement du continent à atteindre les objectifs de Malabo et les objectifs de développement durable, tout en répondant aux défis émergents tels que le changement climatique, les conflits, le changement, les changements démographiques, et aussi le changement au niveau de la digitalisation et de la numérisation. À l'UMA, comme communauté économique régionale, l'UMA se félicite de ce nouvel élan continental et soutient fermement l'orientation prospective de la déclaration de Malabo et de Kampala. À l'UMA, nous avons longtemps défendu les principes de BDDA dans notre région et nous restons fermement engagés à aligner nos priorités régionales sur la nouvelle stratégie et le nouveau plan d'action. Nos efforts portent notamment sur le soutien aux pratiques agricoles durables, le renforcement des chaînes de valeur, la transformation des chaînes de valeur transfrontalières, l'investissement dans les technologies intelligentes face au climat et à la promotion de la coopération régionale dans l'agriculture et le développement durable. Nous saluons également l'accent mis en place par la stratégie sur la croissance inclusive, l'égalité des sexes et l'autonomisation des jeunes. L'UMA s'est en effet engagé à promouvoir la participation des femmes et des jeunes au secteur de l'agriculture, de l'agro-industrie, notamment par le biais de partenariats ciblés et de dialogues politiques visant à transformer les inégalités structurelles. Excellences, mesdames et messieurs, dans la perspective de la mise en œuvre de la stratégie 2026-2035, l'UMA s'engage à approfondir sa collaboration avec l'Union africaine, les États membres et les autres CER afin d'accélérer la réalisation des objectifs de PDDA. Nous continuons à servir de plateforme de dialogue, de coordination et d'harmonisation des politiques agricoles en Afrique du Nord, tout en promouvant le partage des connaissances et de l'innovation au profit de l'ensemble du continent. Enfin, permettez-moi de réaffirmer le soutien indéfectible de l'Union Maghreb Arabe à cette initiative importante. Nous sommes prêts à travailler ensemble dans l'esprit de la solidarité africaine, de l'intégration régionale et de la prospérité partagée. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Merci beaucoup, Madame. Now may I invite the East African community. If we do not have the East African community, okay, okay.
Your Excellencies, distinguished dignitaries, CAADP stakeholders, and champions of agricultural development, all protocols observed. My name is David Wafula from the East African Community. On behalf of the Secretary General of the East African Community, Honorable Veronica Nduva, we are honored to be part of this historical launch, which also marks commencement of the third generation of CAADP. The EAC is one of the 8 RECs that are the cornerstones of continental integration under the African Union. Our partner states include Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Republic of South Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Federal Republic of Somalia. The EAC centers its regional integration agenda around a people-centered, private sector-led approach, positioning agriculture as the engine for economic growth and transformation. In EAC, agriculture contributes 25 to 40% of the GDP, employs over 80% of the population, accounts for 65% of intra-regional trade, and furthermore, 70% of our industries are agro-based. The Malabo Declaration, which has been CAADP's second generation, institutionalized robust mechanisms, including the biennial review, enhancing accountability and transparency. Africa being the only continent in the world with this kind of robust mechanism. I just want to update you that in March this year, the EAC Secretariat, with support of AGRA, conducted a joint sector review aligned with the commitment on mutual accountability under the Regional Agriculture Investment Plan. And this review placed a special focus on youth and women in agri-food systems, recognizing their pivotal role in agricultural transformation. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate progress, we must confront prevailing and emerging challenges. Implementation of a Kampala CAADP strategy and action plan demands for renewed political will, innovative financing and partnerships. As EAC, we stand at the forefront of this transformation and commit to play a leading role in implementation. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the third generation of CAADP reminds us that agricultural transformation is not a choice, it is a necessity. Let us embrace the Kampala CAADP strategy and action plan for the next decade as another opportunity to turn our desired collective action into reality. Strengthening agri-food systems is critical for unlocking shared prosperity, inclusive growth, and sustainable development, as underscored under Agenda 2063 of the African Union. The urgency for action and impact has never been greater. Together, let us build Africa. Thank you, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much, EAC. With this, we have come to the end of the regional economic communities that confirmed their participation in this launch. I therefore now would like to call upon the representatives of the donor partners. Mr. Ott, kindly come and take the floor. On behalf of all the development partners, may you come and give us your commitment to the domestication of the CAADP strategy. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Odd Erik Arnesen. I'm a Norwegian. I'm a regional envoy for food security, but also the chair of the donor partner coordinating group, DPCG. Your Excellencies, Ministers, representatives from AU member states, AU Commissioner, CEO of the NEPAD, and development partners, farmers, friends of farmers, allow me to stand on the protocols already established. Once again, thank you to the government of South Africa and the people of South Africa for hosting us. It's not the first time CAADP comes to town, and we have had the pleasure of being here on several occasions, and we have always returned with a smile on our face.
Ladies and gentlemen,
felt
our
that
true
we have
power
accomplished it.
lies not in potential,
No doubt that we
but
will do the same today or during this deliberation. I also have to follow my previous speakers in congratulating Your Excellency Moses Vilakati as elected Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment at the African Union Commission. This is the first time we meet, and we look forward to continue our partnership with the African Union under your leadership. And I must say that we are a bit excited by your 100-day statement here and how this will be played out. This is an exciting news for us. So I hope we can hear more about this as we proceed in our discussions here. During the summit in Kampala, as DPCG, we renewed our commitment to support the transformation of Africa's agri-food systems under the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Programme, as we have done since CAADP's inception in 2003. So we have been long-standing partners in the collaboration around CAADP and supporting African constituency and implementing the continental policies. Together we have witnessed notable progress, but significant gaps remains. Despite the impressive gains in food production and agricultural growth, challenges persist in achieving ambitious goals of poverty reduction, food security, and inclusive growth laid out in the CAADP framework. So when I wrote the first draft of this speech, I was continuing with pleasantries on how we work together and the future looked bright. But I think I was set a bit aback by the comments by the ministers here and also from the regional economic communities that things are changing rapidly. When CAADP was launched, we had a relatively stable institutional system. We had growth in 8 budgets, so we were always going. Now this has changed substantially, and it's very dramatic, not only for Africa and our partnership, but also for us as development partners. I don't think I need to go into the details, but we need to recognize these substantial challenges that agriculture will face in the coming years. The key to domestication of the African plan must face this new reality. We have experienced this shock in the sector before. We have had drought, we have had COVID, and now with climate change being recognized as something we have to address for a very, very long time, we have been used to changes. And I'm sure that within this action plan, these changes and challenges will be addressed. We have seen the dramatic reduction in the US spending on agriculture. While this will also affect the US programs, which have been substantial, we just have to recognize that have played a very important part in supporting African agriculture. We also see that aid spending from donor partners are going down, partly because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine and new priorities back in the various countries. This is a reality that we have to face. As a consequence of this, we see that our long-standing friends, the UN institutions, are also reorganizing themselves. This is very dramatic. And I just got a message from one land allowed to come, and they've always been here. This is just the beginning of a very rapid process. We all need to recognize, especially the African constituency, when you do your action planning. I wouldn't call it a crisis, because we also see that there are opportunities coming with these type of changes. But it has to be recognized, and I hope that when this dialogue continues at the country level, this is something essential. And in one way or another, this domestication takes on a much stronger meaning. Because now we are talking about domestic resources and limited external resources. This means the CAADP target of 10% investment by government is more real. It's more. It's always been necessary, but now it's really hitting the headlines if you want more investments in agriculture. Furthermore, the framing of private sector investment, which in any case will have to be larger than government investments if the target of CAADP is going to be reached. The framing of private sector investments to attract more private sector investment must come higher on the agenda than it might have been. I don't know. And not least, and I think this is a critical point we often miss out on, and that is the national banks. They don't invest in agriculture. They should be in the forefront when you talk about domestication and investments. How can governments frame and ensure that the national banks invest more in agriculture? On our side, we, as a DPCG, we need to rethink how we can partner with you, with less people in the UN system, which might be one of the results. I'm not going to look into the future of the UN, but less resources is going to be the order of the day for many of us. So we need to sit down. This is not business as usual, but I think it's also appropriate. Now, CAADP is going into its 20s. It's not longer a teenager, it's becoming an adult. So you should expect more. Don't you think so? So I think this is a challenge that African government and agriculture constituency can handle. I have no doubt, but it can't be business as usual. Not for the constituency, nor for us as development partners. So I hope, Commissioner, in your 100 days, we'll have a chance to discuss this and come up with a framework on how we can work together and address these issues. So this meeting, which is usually, as I say, I usually stand there and I exchange pleasantries and we all leave. This is critical. This is critical. So I really look forward to the discussions over these 2 days and the continued partnership that we as development partners will have with you. It's long-standing, and hopefully we can make it even more fruitful for both parties, because we are now looking at business as unusual. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Odd, for your remarks. This marks the end of the opening ceremony of the launch of the strategy. Slightly because of my height, we have spent a little 16 minutes more than the expected time. And therefore, you may excuse us for that 16 extra minutes that we added on top of our opening ceremony. The second session of this of this launch will be moderated by my colleague, Ms. Panduleni, and it will be after the group photo and health break that will go out right now to take. So please, before we could allow the other audience to go out, may we usher out the ministers and then the commissioner for a group photo, and it will be taken in front of the convention center. Please, protocol people, can we usher them? And then the rest of us will follow. So after the family photo, the ministers and the commissioner, the rest of us can also join them for a family photo. I don't know how it's going to look because of the numbers, but we can join them. Please, it's at the